Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most significant population movements in African history, the Bantu expansion. Over thousands of years, the Bantu-speaking peoples transformed the African continent through migration, spreading their language, culture, and agricultural practices across vast regions. In this video, we'll cover the origins of the Bantu expansion, the phases through which it unfolded, its linguistic impact, the cultural influence it had across Africa, and the demographic changes that reshaped the continent. By the end, you'll have a deep understanding of how the Bantu expansion shaped much of modern-day sub-Saharan Africa. Let's get started. The story of the Bantu expansion begins around 3000 BCE in the region of modern-day Nigeria and Cameroon. The term Bantu refers to a group of languages spoken by an estimated 240 million people today, belonging to the Niger-Congo language family. But the Bantu speakers were not just defined by language, they were also an agricultural people with a unique set of technologies and cultural practices. The Bantu-speaking peoples are believed to have lived in small, riverine communities in Central and West Africa, relying heavily on slash-and-burn agriculture, fishing, and the domestication of animals like goats and cattle. Their economy was largely based on yams, oil palms, and later millet and sorghum, which allowed them to maintain relatively stable food supplies. However, over time, this stable existence gave way to expansion. Scholars believe a few key factors contributed to this initial migration. Population pressure. As Bantu communities grew, they needed more land for their expanding populations. Agricultural innovation. The introduction of iron smelting technologies allowed for more efficient farming and hunting, giving Bantu speakers an advantage over neighboring groups. Environmental changes. Droughts and the encroachment of the Sahara Desert pushed communities southward and eastward in search of more hospitable environments. The combination of these factors led to the first major wave of migration, which would mark the beginning of the Bantu expansion. The Bantu migration wasn't a single, uniform event, rather, it occurred in two primary phases over millennia. Starting around 1000 BCE and continuing until around 1500 CE. Phase 1. The Eastern and Western routes. By 1000 BCE, Bantu-speaking peoples began spreading east and south from their heartland near modern-day Cameroon and Nigeria. This migration followed two main routes. Western Bantu migration. This route led through Central Africa, into modern-day Angola, Congo, and Gabon. The Bantu adapted to the forested regions of the Congo Basin, bringing their agricultural skills and iron-smelting techniques to these areas. Eastern Bantu migration. Simultaneously, another group migrated eastwards, moving through the Great Lakes region of East Africa, modern-day Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. This group encountered fertile highlands and savannas, where they developed advanced farming techniques and cultivated new crops like bananas and sugarcane. These groups followed different paths but shared similar cultural practices, allowing them to thrive in their new environments. Phase 2. The Southern expansion. The second phase of the Bantu expansion took place around 500 CE, when the Bantu-speaking peoples began migrating further south. This period saw the Bantu reaching southern Africa, moving into territories that would become Zimbabwe, Botswana, and South Africa. This phase was marked by increased interaction with indigenous groups like the Khoisan people, who had previously inhabited these regions. The Bantu peoples brought with them ironworking technology, which was previously unknown in the area, transforming local economies and introducing new agricultural methods. One of the most profound legacies of the Bantu expansion is the widespread dissemination of the Bantu languages, which remain some of the most widely spoken languages in Africa today. As the Bantu peoples migrated across the continent, they carried their language with them. Linguists can trace this diffusion through the changes and variations that emerged in Bantu languages as they spread over vast distances. Today, there are over 500 Bantu languages, with Swahili, Zulu, Xhosa, Kikuyu, and Shona among the most prominent. Swahili, in particular, became a lingua franca of East Africa due to its combination of Bantu linguistic roots and Arab influences from coastal trade. Even today, Swahili is widely spoken across several African countries, from Tanzania to Kenya, and is one of the African Union's official languages. The expansion of these languages also facilitated communication and trade across great distances, fostering connections between distant Bantu-speaking communities. This linguistic unity, combined with the agricultural and technological advances the Bantu peoples introduced, contributed to the rise of powerful civilizations like Great Zimbabwe in southern Africa. The Bantu expansion not only changed the linguistic landscape of Africa but also had a profound cultural impact. As the Bantu-speaking peoples migrated, they brought with them iron-smelting technologies. This enabled them to create better tools and weapons, giving Bantu communities a competitive edge over others and allowing them to clear more land for agriculture. Agricultural advancements. The Bantu peoples introduced new crops, such as bananas and millet, which allowed them to support larger populations. Social and political structures. Bantu societies were generally organized into small, kin-based groups. However, as they expanded, they also began forming more complex political structures, including chiefdoms and eventually kingdoms, such as the Kingdom of Congo and Mutapa Empire. The Bantu migration was also marked by interaction with other peoples. In East Africa, Bantu-speaking peoples interacted with the Nilotic and Cushitic groups, leading to cultural exchanges, including in the areas of agriculture, trade, and religion. In southern Africa, Bantu communities interacted with indigenous Khoisan peoples, adopting elements of their lifestyle while introducing new technologies and farming methods. Over time, these interactions led to the creation of hybrid cultures and new social dynamics. The demographic landscape of Africa was transformed by the Bantu expansion. Before the migration, much of Central, East, and Southern Africa was sparsely populated, with hunter-gatherer groups like the San and Khoisan peoples occupying vast regions. The Bantu migration brought significant demographic changes, characterized by population growth. The introduction of agriculture allowed Bantu-speaking communities to grow rapidly. With more reliable food sources, Bantu populations flourished, leading to the establishment of larger villages and, eventually, towns. Displacement and absorption. Many hunter-gatherer groups, such as the Khoisan, were either displaced or absorbed into the expanding Bantu populations. In some cases, indigenous groups were assimilated, adopting Bantu languages and cultures, while in others, they were pushed into more marginal lands. Urbanization and trade. As the Bantu peoples moved into fertile lands, they developed more complex economies, resulting in the rise of trade centers in urbanized regions, especially along the East African coast and in southern Africa. The Bantu expansion is one of the most important migrations in human history, reshaping the cultural, linguistic, and demographic landscape of sub-Saharan Africa. What began as small agricultural communities near the borders of Nigeria and Cameroon transformed into a continent-wide migration that spread language, culture, and technology over thousands of miles and millennia. Today, the legacy of the Bantu expansion is still evident in the languages spoken, the cultures practiced, and the demographics of modern Africa. Whether through the rise of powerful kingdoms like Great Zimbabwe or the spread of Swahili as a regional language, the Bantu expansion continues to influence the African continent in profound ways. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video has given you a clearer understanding of the impact of the Bantu expansion. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history and culture.